right there.
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We will call to order the Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, Town Council regular meeting to order at 6:32. And for the roll call,
Sari, Councilor Franco, Councilor Jacome, Councilor Jones, Councilor McBride, Councilor Parker, and Councilor Westerfeld. They're listed as in alphabetic, not the way you're sitting.
thank you. If everyone would please rise for the salute to the flag. Thank you. On to recognitions, awards, and memorials. First, we have a proclamation recognizing Arbor Day. Councilor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas the holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska and is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of topsoil, lower our heating and cooling costs, moderate temperature, clean the air, and provide a habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our town increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of the business areas, and beautify our communities. And whereas in a recognition of National Arbor Day on Friday, April 28, 2023, 11 trees consisting of Armstrong maple, eastern roadbud, Basque elm, and Japanese snowbells are planted in the Groton Thrive 55 Active Living Center. Now therefore it be resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Groton does hereby urge all citizens to support all efforts to protect our trees and woodlands and plant trees to promote the well-being of this and future generations. Dated Groton, October 28th, 28th day of April 23. Juan Melendez, Mayor.
Thank you. On to proclamation honoring local service members.
Thank you. I have a proclamation recognizing local service members. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrated the many achievements and contributions by African Americans in our community. And whereas the annual celebration in our town of Groton requires many hands to make sure that the events are a success. And whereas this year the town had a good fortune to have assistance from the submarine service members from the New London Submarine Base. During the kickoff of Black History Month on February 1st, 2023, and whereas our military and our civilian communities continue to collaborate in making the town of Groton a welcoming place for everyone to live, we appreciate this relationship. Now there be it resolved that the town of Groton, on behalf of the community, recognize the time and effort of our country and our community that Petty Officers First Class William Franklin, Kelton Myers, Easton Nobby, Michael Osborne, Petty Officer Second Class Marquise Morgan, and Chief Petty Officer James McAllister continue to give and make, and we thank you for your service. Dated at Groton, Connecticut, this 4th day of April 2023, signed the town Mayor Juan Melendez.
Thank you.
I just want to add, in addition to that, this group that William brings out has helped the marching band and many other activities where, they're called upon and they serve at will. So just much appreciation to that.
Thank you. On to proclamation honoring Chris Stalker.
If you may come forward, Mr. Stalker. All right, a proclamation honoring Chris Stalker. Whereas Chris Stalker was a student athlete in high school at Loomis Cafe Boarding School in Windsor, Connecticut, where he began coaching during his senior year, and whereas Chris went on to obtain his bachelor's in arts in kinesiology and early childhood education, and whereas he continued staying in the active duty of coaching community through coaching his children's soccer and baseball teams, and whereas in 2025, Chris's coworker invited him to attend a fencing match at Ledyard High School that ignited his interest in the sport, and whereas in that same year, a fellow parent and school staff member formed a fencing club at Fitch High School, and whereas in 2008, Chris helped lead the team to become a varsity sport and gained recognition within the Eastern Connecticut Conference, and whereas Chris continued to coach fencing at Fitch High School 3 days a week and began coaching in New London to assist with the start of their fencing team, and whereas Chris dedicated 18 years to building the fencing programs in both the town of Groton and the city of New London, now there be it resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Groton hereby recognizes Chris Stalker for his important contributions he's made to the students and the communities of Groton and New London as a fencing coach, and congratulate him on his retirement after 18 years of service. Dated Town of Groton, this 4th day, April 2023, signed the Town Mayor, Juan Melendez.
Thank you. On to proclamation honoring the Robert E. Fitch Senior High School cheer team.
I just wanted to add to that, as it was stated in that proclamation, there was no fencing program at Fitch, and nobody sits the bench in fencing. There's a varsity and a JV, and everyone plays. So it's definitely something remarkable to have created a program that did not exist. So, okay, a proclamation.
We invite them in first?
Yeah. We gotta get them, yeah. Ian's trying to get them. I know, trying. Let's do the picture. All right, welcome. So I have a proclamation honoring the Robert E. Fitch Senior High School cheer team. Whereas on March 4th, 2023, Robert E. Fitch High School cheer team won the Connecticut State Class L Championship for the second time in the school's history, attaining the highest score of 174.9 among all 8 class categories, making them the top team in this year's state championship. And whereas the team also qualified for New England Regional Cheer Championship, where they finished second. And whereas in addition to their athletic abilities, there were several individuals who received outstanding recognition for their accomplishments. They are as follows: Gianna Butler, awarded All-State Academic, All-ECC, ECC Scholar Athlete, Volunteer Youth Cheer Coach Champion. I hope I don't mess this name up. Nevaeh Sala was awarded All-State Academic, Volunteer Youth Cheer Coach Champion. Tahala Gastos, I apologize if I'm messing up these names, was awarded All-ECC Volunteer Youth Cheer Coach Champion. And Alani Ferris was awarded All-ECC and Volunteer Youth Cheer Coach Champion. And they should be additionally congratulated for these distinctions. Now there be it resolved that the Town of Groton and the Town Council and the Town of Groton extends congratulations to the Robert E. Fitch Senior High School cheer team, consisting of Tahana Knight, Isabel Barachi, Kaylani General, Ciara Knight, Kali Baisley, Melissa Robinson, head coach, assistant coach Melissa, I'll come back up, Jelana Robinson, Lauren Pelletier, Destiny Pina, and Alexis Johnson. Melissa Robinson, head coach, assistant coach Melissa Allen, and Kristen Gomez, and Amara Robinson. Dated the Groton, Connecticut, this 4th day, April 2023, signed by the town mayor, Juan Melendez. If you guys want to do a quick picture behind us, would be great.
You can come closer if you want.
Yeah,
Come on up. Come on up.
Yeah, come back down a little. Even better. Melissa, do you want to get in the middle? Melissa, come get in the middle.
All right, there we go.
Where is she?
All right.
Thank you. So the regular meeting will stand in recess and we at 6:44, and we will open the public hearing at 6:44. Clerk McCousher.
Town of Groton, public hearing notice. Notice is hereby given that the Groton Town Council will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, at 6:30 PM at the Town Hall Annex, Community Room 1, at 134 Groton Long Point Road, and via Zoom, to consider alterations to 1206 River Road right-of-way in accordance with Article 5 of the Groton Code of Ordinances, designation of scenic roads. This was dated Groton, Connecticut, on the 31st day of March, 2023. And the Town Clerk, Betsy McCousher.
Thank you. I just need the list.
Yes.
Sir, just need your name and address for the record.
My name is Tom Paul Antonio, and I'm the owner of 1206 River Road in Groton. I submitted to the town a request to update the existing driveway apron for 1206 River Road. That was part of a submission for a subdivision approval, which was approved by the town on February 28th. One of the requirements of that subdivision was that the existing apron be upgraded to the existing Groton road and drainage standards. I think in the packet, there's a picture of the property and on River Road where the gate is for that driveway apron. The road and drainage regulations, specifically RDS 214 and 215, prescribe that the driveway be approximately 12 feet wide with 2-foot flares on each side, and that it projects back into the property approximately 30 feet from the center of the roadway. The plan is to asphalt. There is some asphalt there now, but to remove that and to re-asphalt it in compliance with the requirement. As far as other effects to the scenic road, there are none. It's just an existing, as I said, the existing driveway apron to be upgraded. There is an existing rock wall on either side of the existing gate That will be enhanced as part of doing the paving. There are no mature trees that will be affected as a result of this improvement. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak at the public hearing at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we will, just need your name and address for the record.
Mrs. Meaney, this is only for the River Road. Do you have questions about the River Road?
Oh, no.
Okay. I just figured that you
So
did.
this is separate?
Yeah, we'll have public comment
Oh.
right after this.
Sorry. I was a little bit.
All right, seeing no other speakers for the public hearing, we will close the public hearing at 6:47. And the regular council meeting will be back from recess at 6:47. On to receipt of citizens' petitions, comments, and concerns. Receipt of citizens' petitions is the portion of the council meeting where the council welcomes comments from citizens to address the council. Please sign the sheet on the table at the front of the meeting room. When you are recognized by the mayor, please approach the podium, clearly state your name and address, and speak into the microphone. Each presentation should be limited to 5 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be related to matters pertinent to Groton. To speak during this portion of the meeting via Zoom, please email council@groton-ct.gov by 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting. Okay, so first we'll go to Zoom. I have on my list Kelly Polson.
She is not on yet. I do have Jen Surf. I'll
Okay.
promote her.
Sure.
She should be there.
Ms. Surf, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
3.
Oh, she's there. Oh, she's here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Then we'll do Zoom first. Ms. Surf, you have the floor.
I'm on mute here.
There you go. You have the-
Okay. Miles Tutt?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Good. My name is Genevieve Surf. I live at 6 Pearl Street in Mystic. Good evening, town councilors. I would like to speak 3 things, so you're going to have to be very short. One is that I'm in support of the bicycle pass grant. Anything we could do to encourage more bicycle access to our roads, I think would be fantastic. Right now, most of us are terrified to ride our bikes because of the speeding. But I saw recently on the Nowak Mystic Road that I guess the police department had put one of those signs up that tells you what speed you're going, and it moved around a couple of times. I found it very effective because the minute people see what speed they're going, they sort of slow down. And I think we ought to have a lot more of those, maybe little solar power ones like they have in Europe. And then in Europe, what they do is they have a smiley face when you're going the right speed, and they have a frowny face when you're going too fast, and they say tell the speed. And that would slow the cars down so that the bicyclist would have more of a chance and be safer. So that's my comment on the bicycles. And then I would like to also speak about the Gloucester property thing, which is I've heard for the first time the presentation the other day. I thought it was an excellent presentation, by the way, and I want to congratulate. I think the planner did a great job. And I also think that the number of people who turned out was plenty. I don't agree that there should be too much, public input into some of these things, because very often the public really doesn't know as much as staff does. And if you get, 100+ members of the public in this town, it already means a lot. And I think the more you got, the more you're gonna get contradictions and things like that. So I actually thought that the public responses were excellent. And I want to particularly talk about the swimming pool. I really feel that for years and years, the public has been begging for a swimming pool in this town. It's really important. Where I spent some time in Germany this year, it's a small town like ours, it's called Garmisch. It's only got probably about 40,000 citizens too. It's the tourist town like Groton is. And it has a Schwimmbad center, which has 5 swimming pools. One is Olympic size with laps. One is kind of a smaller size for kids and old ladies like me. One is a little wading pool for moms and their babies. One is a diving pool with there's one of those swirly things you can slide, it's this water slide down into the water. And the final one is my favorite, is a heated jacuzzi pool with about 12 jets in it. Well, I'll tell you something, that swim center is crowded all the time. People love it, the tourists love it, people love it. It gives you tremendous well-being to go swimming. It's incredibly healthy. I'm starting to come down with Parkinson's, and the number one exercise they recommend is swimming because it's not weight-bearing. And for us, those of us who are getting a bit older and hurt right and left, it would be a real health asset for us. And all of my friends wish we had a good swimming pool in Groton. I mean, right now we're lucky we can go to the Y, but I think we really should bite the bullet and put the swimming pool phase 3 plan into action. And I would just like to read something. I don't know, Diane Glembowski here, is she gonna read her own letter? Betsy, do you know?
I don't know. Sorry.
Okay.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Yeah, Diane Glembowski was one of our best planners. Before I read this little paragraph, I also wanted to implore you to treat the people of the Property Reuse Commission with the respect that they deserve, which I don't think happened last time. It sounded to me like you were talking to them as if they were bad children who hadn't done their homework on time. You know, Dave McBride is, after all, the finance director of New London. I think he knows what he's doing when it comes to RFPs. You know, Bob Frink, I've worked with for years. I was on the council with him. I've known him for 20 years. He's a hard worker. Alzad, the same thing. Lauren Gutsch is one of our best RTM representatives. They're not bad children who are late with their homework. And so please, please don't talk to them like that again. It really breaks my heart. Okay, now I just want to read what Diane said about the swimming pool, and you can cut me off when you want. She said, my concern is that the 2 multi-use
I'm
fields.
sorry, your time has expired.
Already? Okay. Well, anyway, swimming pool.
Thank you.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
If Kelly Polson's here in person, it's her, you can speak now. Just need your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Town Council members. Kelly Polson, 112 Laurelwood Road. I have been respectfully requesting residential light trespass ordinances for 15 months. Respectfully request residential light trespass ordinances requiring lights to be shielded and lights to be aimed down on their property, preventing light trespasses on or through adjacent properties. 2 more lights have been added. Now there are 10 exterior lights on just the 3 properties across from me, the brightest of which is the property directly across the street. These lights trespass across my property and into my home all night long. The property next door has a floodlight that trespasses across my entire backyard, the trees behind my property and my neighbor's backyard on the other side of me. The light is so bright it hurts my eyes and I can't see to walk in my own backyard. My neighbor 2 houses away could not handle the fact that I changed my fence, and he could no longer park up on his lawn to shine his high beams into my house. So he added a light in the back. On the very far left of his property, aimed to the left, 2 houses away towards my house. It's not shining on anything on his property. And it goes from bright to excessively bright, lighting up my neighbor's house on the opposite side, 3 houses away. I am not alone. About 180 Groton registered voters signed a petition asking for this light ordinance, residential light ordinances. Light pollution is associated with risks of human health. Humans are not exempt from the effects artificial light has on animals. Studies show that it sends bodies' biological clock off, hampering sleep cycles. Studies have found it to be significantly correlated for all forms of cancer, including lung, breast, colorectal, and prostate cancers individually. Light pollution can disrupt critical behaviors in wildlife. It can stall the recovery of threatened species and interfere with the ability to undertake long-distance migrations, reduce breeding success, and their chances of survival. Light pollution is a growing phenomenon which needs to be considered in conservation efforts, which can be avoided or minimized through nature-friendly lighting designs and management. Wildlife is also harmed by light pollution, which means the decline of lightning bugs, of fireflies, the death of migrating birds, the fatal disorientation of newly hatched sea turtles, only to name a few examples. After affecting wildlife biodiversity, human health, global energy efficiency, light pollution is at the apex of some of the most pressing global problems. What scientists say is getting worse. How dark the night sky is affects wildlife, including bats, migratory birds, insects. Light pollution threatens the health and natural cycles of humans, as well as wastes energy and money. Light pollution is hitched to global climate change in important and compelling ways. And protecting the night sky is paramount to avoiding worst-case climate scenarios. Lighting is one of the biggest contributors to energy consumption, accounting for almost 1/5 of the world's electricity use and nearly 2 billion tons of carbon a year. I have had light trespassing across my property and into my home every single night, all night long for about 6 years. The police will not do anything without an ordinance. Would you want them trespassing into your home every single night? Would you want this happening to your kids, your parents, your friends? Respectfully request residential light trespass ordinance stating light poles need to be shielded to prevent light trespass, stating lights need to be aimed down on property to prevent light trespass on adjacent properties, stating floodlights are not allowed. Lighting should be the minimum necessary in both the number of luminaries and intensity of light to achieve the intended purposes of the light. Thank you for your time and hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Patricia Weaver, followed by Christine Meaney.
Good evening, Mayor and Town Councilors. My name is Patricia Weaver. I reside at 75 Brandegee Ave, Groton, Connecticut. I'm coming before you, bear with me one second. While I am a current RTM member, I feel compelled. I wrote each of you as a private citizen and resident and homeowner in Groton since 1998, and I offer the following statement for review and consideration. In my personal life, I'm passionate about advocacy for both addiction recovery awareness, but also domestic violence awareness. In my youth, services were not readily available to help victims that had the impact of either addiction or domestic violence. I am a parent of 2 children that have gone through the Groton public school system. Our community is very blessed with services. Our police department runs DARE in 5th and 7th grade. GASP, Groton, has been present at not only school events, but community events. They have been in operation since 1999, and they are funded by Ledgely Health District. Perhaps you're not aware, but with the opioid settlement fund disbursements, when they were announced in 2021, we had a hard, fast date as a community to register for these funds. At the time, our mayor had not been elected. I came forward and I advocated for our municipalities to register for these funds, because if municipalities and states didn't register for these funds by the deadline, they wouldn't be able to utilize these funds. I received a notification from John Burke that we were registered for these funds. I haven't been present at the local RTM meetings because of personal reasons, but I had attended the last RTM meeting, and I was quite surprised to find out that as the town council had made a decision, a unanimous decision, to award all of the funds to one local service provider. I think this is short-sighted in that you may not be aware, but These funds come from a multitude of lawsuits, most notably $26 billion settlement resulting from more than 3,000 cities, counties, and states suing manufacturers and distributors for their roles in the opioid crisis. Payments from that case began and will continue for 18 years, setting up what health experts and advocates are calling an unprecedented opportunity to make progress against an epidemic that has ravaged America for 3 decades. They caution that each state have its own approach to these funds, including different distributions between local and state governments and various process for spending the money, with countless individuals and groups advocating for their share of the pie, from those dealing with addiction and their families to government agencies, nonprofit, healthcare systems, and more. The money's impact could depend heavily on geography and politics. Experts tracking the funds say transparency around who receives the money and how these decisions are made is key to a successful and useful distribution. On 12/15/21, John Burt sent an email saying that Groton had been registered. At the last RTM meeting, when the announcement came forward that all of the funding was awarded to Community Speaks Out, I asked how much that funding was. That funding is $120,000 a year for 18 years, $2.1 million of assets. So when this initially came out, I was wondering why these funds weren't handled like ARPA funds were, so that the majority of our service providers in the area can vie for these very useful resources to diversify the impact through many of our constituents and residents. So I had initially thought of gas because during events, I've gone up and seen the tables, and I know that they're predominantly funded by grants. And their grants are specific, like they currently have one for alcohol awareness and tobacco awareness, and their grants are very specific in that they have to be utilized by a certain date and time.
1 minute remains.
Oh. I'm asking the town council to consider tabling their decision for Community Speaks Out, because there's many other organizations in the area that can benefit from these funds. Southeastern Connecticut Child and Family Agency in Groton, Community of Hope in Groton, run by Annette Eldridge, Fellowship House, run by Terry Main. Trails Corner is in Stonington Institute, is right in Groton. SCAD can benefit from a portion of these funds. Safe Futures can benefit from a portion of these funds, and GASP, and many local practitioners, because these funds are meant to be utilized for harm reduction, infrastructure prevention, recovery, substance use disorder treatment, and mental health. I believe that we need to ensure that they're used entirely for the treatment and prevention and recovery programs, and that equitable fair distribution to several potential organizations to reach a larger portion of our demographic. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you got additional comments, you can submit them to the town clerk.
I already did.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Christine Meaney, followed by Margaret Haney.
Good evening. My name is Christine Meaney. I live at 54 Nicholas Avenue, Groton. Dear members of the Town Council, I want to thank you all for reading my email and listening to me speak at your last meeting, which was March 7th. I also want to thank you for your unanimous vote supporting this cause. It's important to give the senior golfers a reasonable cart rate before 9 a.m. I hope you will vote again to not increase the cost of the golf carts before 9 a.m. and to keep the cost at $15. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Margaret Haney, followed by Jim Burke.
Good evening to council. My name is Margaret Haney, and I live at 81 Laurelwood Road, Groton. About a month ago, we had gotten new speed checks put up on our street because we live on a dead-end road, but people speed like mad, crazy. And so finally, they put one up about a month ago, and still speeding. It hasn't stopped any of them. In fact, when it's on the pole that goes towards the dead end, the cul-de-sac, but they still speed. And then when they're coming back this way, it's like free-for-all. I mean, we're talking very fast. And I think another one should be put up, and I honestly think that there should be an unmarked cop car to sit on that street, because he would be writing tickets left and right all day long. It's just out of control. A couple months ago, I was trying to back into my driveway, and there was a vehicle that was coming down the road, and if my husband wasn't in the car with me, he would have T-boned me. And he had to swerve around me to avoid hitting me. It's really bad. It's been bad for, I've been on that street for 20 years, and it's just terrible. And something bad is going to happen. And I would hate to see someone get seriously injured or killed. So that's my opinion on all of that. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
What road is that? I didn't hear what road.
Laurelwood Road.
Laurelwood.
Thank you. Next, I have Jim Burke, followed by Brian Kent.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Jim Burke. I'm a Groton resident living at 234 Ocean View Avenue. I'm here to urge the council to approve acceptance of the Transportation Alternative Plan Act. I was a bicycle commuter between Mystic and Electric Boat for about 15 years, and I'm familiar with cycling along the route that is, I'll call it the Groton Bikeway Project. Anyways, there's two general routes to get you east-west between Mystic and Groton. Either you're going to take 184 or Route 1, which you could call a shore route. If you live north of I-95, Route 184 is not a bad route, but you're going to have to drop down either on 117 or Buddington Road, get on Route 1, and that'll take that to South Road. And if you live south of I-95, you're going to take either Route 1 or 215, a few different ways, trolley trail, get to Depot Road, come out on Route 1, down onto South Road. So no matter how you cycle, whichever route you take, you're going to have to take South Road, get to Tower Avenue, then either High Rock, Pequannock Road, Thomas Road, and they're all very important if you're trying to get to Groton City. So while the Route 1 South Road and Thomas Road route, you think about it, it's a wide shoulder, you're by the airport. That's what you think about, but there's some challenges to the ride. And some problem areas include the section from Route 1, on Route 1, from Depot Road to South Road. There's a lot of commercial activity and in this section, and there's cars entering and exiting parking lots. Reasonable stuff, but you have to be very aware, be careful, keep your head up. The road narrows at the Pequannock River Bridge as you're heading west, and if you're, it dumps you out onto a two-lane section of road, and you have to get out into the traffic lane and then get into the left lane so you can head down South Road. A little bit challenging, especially in traffic, morning, rush hour. So that's an area that could use some improvement. A second area, and this is the worst area, the stretch between Route 1 on South Road, heading all the way down to the south side of the railroad bridge. You go into the underpass. So it's a designated bike route, and there's sections of the road that have no shoulder. And the worst section of the whole ride is going under that railroad underpass. The surface of the road is rough, there's potholes, and there's almost always standing water in it. As you approach it, you gotta look over the bridge and see if there's any cars coming at you from the other side of the bridge, because you can't go through at the same time they do. If you look at the road, it's always the section in the middle of the road's in the best shape with the least amount of water. So you try to get through the area as fast as you can to avoid cars. But if you have to move into the standing water, there can be potholes, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. I know that's a hard road to maintain. I'm not, and I'm not sure where that comes into all this, but The other thing is when you go under the road, Tocon is right on the other side of it, and there's big trucks coming out of there occasionally, so you gotta kind of factor that into where you're going. So I'm just saying from experience, that's a tough area to go through. I went through there once, I'm riding down, I have a car behind me, which, all right, I'm doing 20 plus miles an hour. I'm coming down, trying to go to the center, and the car passed me. And of course, splashed me on the way, but, you know, it's crazy. I don't know what he was thinking. But typically, it was a nice ride. It's a great route to travel, and it'd be nice to see some safety improvements. And the other thing is there's a sidewalk under there. I can't imagine what happens to a pedestrian walking through there, because it's often, as you know, full of water. But anyways, and so then there's also the railroad tracks on Tower Avenue, west of the airport. The tracks aren't bad, but as you get across the tracks, you kind of get dumped onto an area, there's no shoulder. You know, it's kind of a rough road, so you got to be careful and all that. And I think some of that is planned, so. Is that the end, or?
Sorry, yes, that was 5 minutes.
Oh, okay, wow. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
very much, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Brian Kent, followed by Jim Stewart.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Brian Kent. I reside at 101 Prospect Hill Road in Groton. I'm here representing Bike Groton. We are the town's bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization, and I am also vice chair of the Connecticut Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board. And in that capacity, I meet with bicycle advocates, DOT officials, engineers, elected officials from around the state, and I can tell you from that experience that what we're considering tonight in the Transportation Alternative Plan grant is very competitive. Many communities are working very hard to receive these grants, and the benefits are more than just providing a passage for people on bicycles. In our town, we have passed a complete streets policy. Congratulations on doing that recently. That is really the first step in improving the quality of life, the livability, and transportation options for many of our residents. And those include people who choose not to drive a car for various reasons. And it may be that they can't afford car ownership. It may be that they're not even old enough to have a driver's license. But there are lots of people in our community who need more options for transportation, and the bicycle is really the most efficient vehicle ever invented for moving from place to place. And having a safe route from the town center into the city will benefit in both directions. It'll allow people like Jim Burke to commute to work, and there are very many people, more than ever, who are commuting to these employment centers like Electric Boat, Pfizer, Yukon Avery Point, and other places, and vice versa, coming into our town. So this is really a critical linkage. It's part of the proposed Eastern Shoreline Path that is has been recognized by the State Department of Transportation, by the Council of Governments, as an important future pathway. So this is a critical link in that piece of the puzzle. It will also tie together various existing and proposed facilities like the GNS Trolley Trail that comes out of the east side, Bluff Point area, Haley Farm into Aquanic Bridge and Depot Road, and also will in the future connect to the Tri-Town Trail. So what I can tell you from my experience is that beginning in 2003, when the Bicycle, Pedestrian, and Trails Master Plan was first created, I was involved in that project, and I was in this room in 2004 at a public meeting, and it was completely filled. We had over 75 people signing in to show up to voice their support for a comprehensive bicycle and pedestrian network improvement in this town. It's now 18, 19 years later, and we're finally on the verge of implementing an important Complete Streets project. It takes that long. And in my remarks that I emailed to you, I included the earliest description of this project, so you can see how, or a similar version of this project, so you can see how long this has been going on. It's not just something that was dreamed up. And then lastly, I'd like to say that implementing a project like this really puts Groton on the map, on the state map, among the Council of Governments, among DOT planners and engineers, and among elected officials who will begin to recognize that this town is serious about making its community more equitable, more livable, and worthy of investment, because one successful grant leads to another successful grant, leads to people looking at our community and saying, this is a great place to live, because look, people are out having healthy activities, they're commuting, they're by bicycle, they're walking to the store, et cetera. They don't all have to drive. And
30 seconds
builds
remain.
economic development opportunities as well. So I urge you to approve this project and give it a strong endorsement on its way to implementation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I have Jim Stewart, followed by Tom Olson.
Hi, my name is Jim Stewart, 11 Overlook Avenue in Nisten. I'm a member of Bike Groton also, as Brian was. I'm here to support the Bikeway grant. This grant is key to several bike-related initiatives in the area, from transportation alternatives like commuting for local employees to critical link to the Eastern Shoreline Path, as he had mentioned. Brian covered this pretty well already, so I'll make it short. It also helps support the town's new Complete Streets policy, and I strongly recommend this grant be supported fully by the town. It's a very wise idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Olson, followed by Brasco Merritt.
Tom Olson, 188 Crossroads Drive, Noank. I'm on the Town Conservation Commission and also I'm Vice President for the Tri-Town Trail. I'm here to address support for the Transportation Alternative Plan grant. As previous speakers, I concur with all that they've said, but I also want to add one key item. Last year, this Town Council approved submission of the crosstown greenway that was approved by the state back in June, and this project directly supports improving that greenway. And I think that's another consideration that hasn't been kind of overlooked here. We need to be supporting, we have two greenways in the town here, and we need to be supporting them to the fullest extent. Thank you.
Thank you. Brasco Merritt, followed by Ron Lukes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilors. Brasco Merritt, 19 Birmingham Court. I've been a resident of Paquonic Bridge, Fort Hill Homes for about 35 years. I own my house. And I've been looking at the new plans for the TVCCA building for quite some time, and I'm not too sure what the footprint is, how much property they are going to take. But I do realize that we need affordable daycare in Groton. I'm willing to accept that. And I'm talking about the basketball court over behind the building that the public uses. And I propose that that court be moved up to the front in the area of Midway Oval and Central Avenue, put maybe 2 lights on it, have a timer to shut them off at 10 o'clock, and a border of your choice around that court. Also, on the sale of property in the town, I propose a one-year limit when somebody proposes to buy a piece of property in the town, put a one-year limit on the sale agreement. They put up money up front, and if they don't buy it, they get refunded 50% of what they put up. They have 1 year to buy the property, and they can't rebid before somebody else does. If they buy the property, all the money they put up is taken off the sale price. I think that's fair. And as far as the beautification of Paquonic Bridge, there is a process in place. It may be slow, it could be speeded up, I don't know. But there is a process in place. Paperwork has been submitted on some properties. And for those that don't live there, drive by and they don't like the looks, just be careful, keep your eyes on the road. You might hit somebody crossing the road. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Ron Lukes, followed by Kevin Markard.
Good evening. I'm Ron Johas. I live on 91 South Road. I've lived there since 1978. And if you think just painting 2 lines down that road is going to make a great bike route, you're out of your mind. There's too many trucks, there's school buses, and there's a lot of high-speed traffic. Not that it's supposed to be, but there's a lot of it there. And I don't care if you paint the 2 lines or not, but that's not the way to go. I think if you want to build a bike route, that somebody ought to spend some time, maybe look into the berms by the old beach, see if there could be a bridge built, run them right through the airport. You know, we spent millions on that safety pad at the end of the runway so that the planes will stop if they overshoot. So use some of that property and then you'd be all right. You cannot run them bike lanes down South Road. And there's not that many people that bike down South Road. Maybe there'll be more, but I measured in front of my house and there's 25 feet from the telephone pole across the street to the sidewalk. And then you have no sidewalks going up on the other side of that overpass. If you want to do something, maybe you should put some sidewalks in for the kids. They're a little more important than the people that are biking. I mean, there's plenty of other stuff you can do and find your way around it. But that road is too narrow, there's too many trucks, and somebody's going to get hurt. Them trucks are 8 feet wide, and you're going to run them in a 10-foot lane, and the mirrors are sticking out a foot on each side. And when you go down, it happened to me 2 or 3 months ago, down under the underpass heading for Route 1, you can't see who's coming the other way, there's a biker here, so you start to accelerate up the hill a little, and all of a sudden the car's coming down the hill. The biker's beside you, you can't move, the car's coming down, it's not safe. And, you know, we had a meeting in 2017, and this deal was kind of tabled, but it was a public meeting. And before you do any construction or whatever on that, you need to get it to the public. And again, if you want to paint 2 lines, I don't care, but it's not going to be safe for anybody on that section of the road. As far as the properties, I'm the president of Paquonic Bridge Fire District, and I can tell you, I want every property I can in our district on the tax rolls. We are, you know, we in Paquonic Bridge pay the most fire district taxes. We protect 75% of the town's untaxable property per se, all these schools and everything. So I don't want myself, I don't want any open space, I don't want any untaxable schools, I want tax revenue, because the people that you want Paquonic Bridge cleaned up, they don't have garbage pickup, they don't have anything. And they're paying the most taxes for the fire district. So I want every bit of tax revenue that I can get to support our district, to help the people in our district. You know, we're the gateway to the town, kind of. Everything runs through Route 1. So I would strongly, and I don't know the cost and how much money you're getting, but I would strongly look into maybe I don't know how high it would have to be, but that berm is there on both sides where the Old Town Beach used to be. And there's a possibility of putting a bridge there, and taking the bikes right down into the bluff point, and then down underneath the bridge down there and out without, if that's what you're looking for safety. I mentioned this in 2017 when we had the public hearing on it, and as far as I was concerned, after that, it was squashed. We never heard another word about it. So, and again, if
1
it's
minute
grant,
remains.
if it's grant money, but that's a matching grant, isn't it? So, to me, if you're gonna just paint white lines, I'd rather not spend any town money and give the grant money back. That's how I feel about it. Unless you can justify making a safe area for the bikes to ride. I'm not against the biking. I'm just thinking that it's not going to be safe. So it's something that needs to be thought about, and there should be a public hearing on this so that everybody knows. I was mailed a letter because I live on South Road, but I've been there since '78. I've seen the traffic. I can see what happens, and it's just not safe for biking at this point. I think you ought to consider the sidewalks too. On the other side of the bridge heading south, there's nothing there. It just stops after it goes under the bridge. So, thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Marquart, followed by Mary Ellen Furlong.
Yeah, Kevin Marquart, 177 Great Brook Road. I also wanted to speak on the proposed bike path. My wife and I currently own a residence on South Road, and my family has operated our family business, a trucking company, on South Road since 1931. As stated by Mr. Johas, the road is not safe for that. You cannot, according to the state, you need 12 feet for a lane, and it's a state road. What the proposal in the town was that I had looked up is they want to cut it to 10-foot wide lanes and paint 4-foot wide shoulders on it. That's not enough room. As somebody that drives a truck and goes by people, I always try to give them a wide berth because the draft from the truck usually sucks them towards the truck. And that road is just not wide enough. You have school buses, you've got trucks. When Tilcon opens, where we currently have our trucks, when we pull out of there, you cannot see to the left. The only thing we have is a mirror that was mounted by Tilcon across the street. And sometimes the mirror is blurred, you know, if you have the dew on it or something like that. And you have a hard enough time picking up a car coming down through there, then never mind a bicycle. The wetness under that railroad pass, it's been like that since they put in the gas line down through there. Something was disturbed. We've contacted the state on it. They've come out. They have said that they think it's from GU because there's a 20-inch water main that runs down through there. But GU came out and tested the water, and they said it's not theirs. But that would need to be addressed. It needs to be addressed anyway. I know it's a state road, but not much the town can do with it. But that's a huge problem for cyclists too, as well as cars. Like somebody else stated, when somebody goes through there, they always try to avoid the water, so you're crossing over, and then you get potholes that you cannot see because they're filled with water. But I just, like to voice my opposition that I would just leave it the way it is. I know it's already got bike route signs on it, but I wouldn't really encourage anybody to go that way. I know it's one of the only ways to get down to Thomas Road, but I would definitely be opposed to that. And as Mr. Johas stated before, I'm currently the vice president of the Paquonic Bridge Fire District, and I would also like to say that I would like to see these school properties put back on the tax rolls. As he has stated, to reiterate, 70+% of the town's buildings are in our district, which we get very little money for, and we have a huge open space burden. So we only have about 42% taxable property that we can draw tax money off, which has created a high mill rate for our residents because we are the only full-time fire department for the town. So I would like you guys to consider that when you vote for these things, a pool and whatever, which, you put a pool at Gloucester, you know, you're gonna have incidences where the fire department's gonna be there. I mean, you slip, you fall, all these kind of things, which, you know, we haven't had any increases in our funding from the town or the state since 2002, I think, was when this was all, when we got funding at all. So I would just like to reiterate that, you know, consider that the residents of the district when you vote on those things, and we take money off the tax rolls, that we're not getting any money back for reimbursement. I mean, it's not up to one district or one area to pay for all that. The lands, the open space, the town buildings, they are for all the residents of Groton. And one district should not have to pay for everybody's use of those buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Ellen Furlong, followed by Anne Marie Foster.
Good evening. My name is Mary Ellen Furlong, and I live at 57 Fishtown Lane in Noank, Mystic, and Groton. I'm speaking here tonight because I am unhappy with the majority of the town council. I feel you have not been doing the job you were elected to do. That is, representing the citizens of Groton and creating legislation in the best interests of the town. The majority of councilors voted to approve the Ressler Plan of Development for the Oral School property at the urging of the development staff and the town manager. Ditto for Got Space. New England Edge was turned back only by massive popular resistance. These projects would have been ruinous for the town, as well as totally against the plan of conservation and development. Our development staff has tried to put several empty schools, some empty since the early 2000s, up for sale with no approved RFP process and little or no input from the public. We now have an extremely well-qualified and competent property reuse committee, only 2 months away from completion of a comprehensive RFP plan that would save the town from threatened lawsuits and legal bills. However, a group of councilors, led by Councilor Franco, want to shut the Property Reuse Committee down so development can start immediately. This would not be in Groton's best interest. The majority group of councilors also tried to have the STRs in Groton grandfathered as a permitted use, even though Noank, which is a part of Groton, voted to have them shut down. The council would have shut out Planning and Zoning Commission, which actually has control over this because it is a land use issue. The town would have received no revenue for this plan, and the costs would have to be borne by taxpayers. The majority of councilors also tried to remove qualified members of Planning and Zoning. The town had a major residential property revaluation last year, awarded by the state, with assessments rocketing. I know because mine rose $70,000, despite no building improvements in the last 5 years. This is due to a bubble in housing prices. Many surrounding towns had large increases as well, and wisely phased them in over 5 years to help town taxpayers. Groton didn't, because the majority of the town council and the town manager didn't think it was important. What do we want that we're not getting? Among other things, we want to keep our open space, have better shops, more supermarket variety, and we do want an aqua center. Last summer, town planning and development staff hired a consultant to recommend what kind of retailers we want in Groton. The consultant said that Groton consumers value low cost over quality. What we got out of this was a new fast food place at the foot of Hamburger Hill. How do we expect to entice new EB employees to move to Groton instead of living elsewhere, when in fact, many Groton residents shop elsewhere? There's not much here. I would remind these counselors that this is a municipal election year.
1 minute
and
remains.
a great many taxpayers are very unhappy about what has been done by this council. Citizens of Groton deserve a better future, not a repeat of the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne Marie Foster, followed by Richard Dixon.
I'm playing both roles, so. I'll be Anne Marie Foster, 15 Route 27, Old Mystic, Groton. I love this town. I'm here to talk about the Property Reuse Committee issue. I had hoped to never learn again that some members of my council and the town staff were once again looking to put a cloak of secrecy over procedures, but that was not to be. It was beyond frustrating to watch the last cow meeting and witness what appeared to be another attempt to take over transparency. And as Bunny, Mary Lou said, give this committee a chance. They're almost done. For the first time, we have experts that are not paid, but are looking to serve the people of Groton in a transparent way and come up with a plan that will do what the voting public is looking to do. Did we learn nothing from the Mystic Oral School fiasco? So let's try and take some time and let this committee finish their job. Okay, now I'm gonna put my other hat on. I'm Richard Dixon, 15 Route 27, Old Mystic. After multiple failures in the process used to market surplus town properties or support other significant development properties by public benefits such as tax incentives, with much of the selection process behind closed doors, this council must move cautiously and without haste in developing new and transparent procedures. Quick decisions without vigorous public debate and input will only lead to further disasters and embarrassment. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next I have Ian Thomas, followed by Jim Furlong.
Good evening. Ian Thomas, 24 Jefferson Drive. I'm also RTM member for District 3 and spouse of Councilor Bordelon. However, I'm here speaking as a concerned citizen. Last week, Councilor Franco made a referral expressing a desire to take over the Property Reuse Committee's work and wanted this done by the end of April. I received word that this referral had garnered the support of 2 other councilors to be eligible for scheduling on any given upcoming agenda. I'm extremely disappointed and dismayed with the choices made by the proponent and supporters of this referral, as it shows an outright disregard and hostility for the eminently moderate and reasonable request issued by Mayor Melendez last week at the close of the meeting. Mayor Melendez asked those councilors who were so critical of the PRUC's work to participate in the committee's meetings so that the resulting document could move more smoothly through the council and be approved and installed as a policy as soon as possible. To that end, he also asked the PRUC members to take the critical councilors' comments and suggestions in good faith and make some corresponding adjustments to the document to reflect that input. And for that incredibly reasonable request, Mayor Melendez, I thank you. It is in the spirit of that request that I respectfully request that you place absolutely no priority on Councilor Franco's referral, since it would, in essence, serve as a hostile takeover of the Property Reuse Committee. And there has been quite enough hostility expressed by the majority of this council towards the work of its own committees. This referral seems to be the latest expression in a relentless intent by the establishment within political parties of town
to disregard the majority of the community's message from the last election cycle, the same message that has had to be repeated a number of times over the duration of this town council term. The message, communicated via the vote totals for each candidate from the last municipal election cycle, implies that the community wants more transparent, accountable, accessible, predictable, and intentionally, actively inclusive methods of government, as well as more public discussion and deliberation of the issues on the record, where the reasoning and rationale of any given counselor can be clearly referenced and understood. Unfortunately, over the duration of this term, we have seen the controlling majority has going to great lengths to disregard, delegitimize, and diminish the ability of the public and their fellow counselors to participate in open dialogue on key issues. This latest maneuver seems to be a coordinated attempt to disrupt, devalue, and commandeer the work of the Property Reuse Committee using contradictory, specious, and arbitrary lines of rhetorical attack, all the while having never made any attempt to actually engage in public deliberative processes that occurs openly and freely at every single PRUC committee meeting. Neither was there ever even one email sent to the committee by any of the counselors who are suddenly so critical of their work. Furthermore, for as much as the critical counselors claim to be closely tracking the committee's work, they all seem to be ignorant of the fact that the latest draft of the revision is available for the public at large as part of every single agenda package. The ongoing draft process has never been a secret. The original source document is easily located in the agenda package for the inaugural meeting, May 25th, 2022. It is important to note that there has never been any set timeline of expected completion, nor schedule of benchmarks or restrictive parameters communicated to the PRUC by the Town Council. The committee was tasked to revise the source document as best they saw fit based on their research. The sudden rush and pressure applied to in the context of developers calling and waiving checks at Bronk and Reiner seems patently absurd when considered in the greater context.
1 minute remains.
There has been no notice from the town mayor or manager indicating a need to meet certain deadlines or meet any certain benchmarks, nor have Bronk, Reiner, or any of the other concerned counselors shown up to any PRUC meetings to express their sense of urgency for the document to be completed in a particular time frame. The PRUC chair and town manager have been in frequent contact and consultation on this revision process with a standing invitation for town staff, including Bronk and Reiner, to provide comments and suggestions as well as actively participate in any meetings of their choosing. Via the town manager, the OPDS staff have provided some comments early in the process, and the town manager has frequently indicated that they will provide further review and recommendations once the draft is on the verge of completion. If accepted and passed with minimal adjustments or alterations, this policy document that is currently being carefully developed could prevent similar debacles from unfolding in the future, as been referenced earlier tonight. I encourage the council to engage with the Property Reuse Committee meetings either in person, remotely, or via email, and help them bring their efforts to a fair and equitable conclusion for the benefit of the town as a whole. Thank you.
Jim Furlong, followed by Michael Boucher.
Good evening. My name is Jim Furlong. I live at 57 Fishtown Lane in Groton. You've heard a lot of what I'm about to say, better than I'll say it myself, but I think it's important for me to speak my opinion on this matter. I feel the issue of the Reuse Committee is very important. Councilor McBride, as chairman of the Council, has noted the committee that he runs was created by Groton when Groton got itself entangled with the Ressler and Gottspace fiascos, which may be with us for years to come in the courts of Connecticut. In both cases, the town paid little attention to the backgrounds of would-be developers and crafted inadequate legal protections for the town. The Reuse Committee is working on guidelines aimed at keeping the town safe from situations like this. Think vacated schools, for example. The committee has wide and experienced membership from the council itself, RTM, Conservation Commission, Housing Authority, and Planning and Zoning Commission. The RTM group includes Lauren Gauthier, formerly a staffer with the State Contracts Review Board. Councilor Franco, at least what I heard from her at the last COW meeting, who's backed by a very narrow majority of the council, believes the committee has taken too much time and created too long a document setting forth its work today. She wants to bring it before the council fast, give it a quick weight reduction, and move on. Councilor McBride wants to complete the job carefully within the next 2 months. Councilor Franco's approach would seem to me to be heedless, as well as wasteful of hard work done by very qualified people eager to protect Groton. We need to allow them to finish or risk becoming targets once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Boucher.
Good evening, Mike Boucher, 16 Hillside Avenue, Groton. I'm here to talk about a surprise project coming through the Groton Beautification Committee, the beautification fence. In at least 4 meetings dating to January of last year, there were plans in place to place a fence along Fort Hill Road by the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood. The plans were discussed fairly extensively. They were clearly meant to hide the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood, and some of the comments were quite harsh, hurtful, and really unnecessary. And this project never, ever should have been discussed to the Beautification Committee. I actually feel sorry for some of the people on the committee. I don't think they had any idea of what was going on, and I don't know who's pushing this in the background, but I personally find it quite disgusting. I went through the neighborhood myself and another individual with a petition, Stop the Fence in the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood, petition to the mayor and council of the town of Groton, Connecticut. We, the undersigned, are opposed to the proposed fencing which is being discussed by the Groton Beautification Committee to hide the homes in the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood along Fort Hill Road. We call on the Groton Town Council to reject the proposed plan to fence off all or any portion of the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood along Fort Hill Road. This includes any proposed phase of the plan, including phase 1, which will start as a fencing project behind the Welcome to Groton sign at the intersection of Fort Hill Road and Route 117. Reject any new fencing plans renamed with terminology such as framing or any other names, because that's what's happening behind the scenes. Now people are calling it, we're just framing something. We're not building a fence. Fully consult with local residents on any future proposals for the screening of properties located in the Paquonic Bridge neighborhood at the very beginning of any discussion at any Town of Groton meetings, including all council, board, commission, and committee meetings. In a little over an hour and a half, I had 23 people sign the petition. I could keep going with it, but it seems on Facebook anyway that people were saying this project wasn't going to be pushed any further, but what I'd like to see is public acknowledgement that it's a bad idea and needs to be shut down immediately. In going through the neighborhood, the people were very nice. I talked to a lot of them. They were very hurt by the discussions on Facebook about the fence, and especially at the meeting minutes. I mean, everybody saw them on YouTube. I posted the meetings. They could see it. I gave them the time points to go to. I took a lot of pictures while I was walking around the neighborhood. I've never, ever seen anything like what was being allowed to happen at Paquonic Bridge. Fine, if you have a problem with the blight, and I agree it's there, take care of the blight. I gave John and Portia, I sent them a lot of photos. Absolutely inexcusable that the blight that I saw was going on. It wouldn't happen in any other neighborhood. There's just no way. And if you look at the old aerial photos, a lot of what I saw was not there. A lot of this is new. I mean, totally indescribable. And it hurts the people that live there, the people that live by these properties. There's honest, good families that are also hurt by the blight in Paquonic Bridge neighborhood. You need to address that first rather than hide the neighborhood behind a fence. It's absolutely wrong. So I will say that John, I thought, was very helpful. They're looking at the blight issue. It's pretty obvious. And I'd just like to hear a public statement tonight that the fence project is dead for now, and God bless the beautification committee. If you want to plant something nice along Fort Hill Road, I'd be happy to volunteer my time to plant something nice, but I'm not going to volunteer to put up a fence to hide a neighborhood. As far as the property reuse committee,
40 seconds remain.
I'm sorry, how many?
40 seconds.
40 seconds. Got to go quick. The Property Reuse Committee is going to protect town residents, taxpayers, and Groton neighborhoods from some of the town councilors and town staff who wish to push through poorly vetted developers looking for fast approval, often with outrageous tax breaks. Let them do their job. They're helping the citizens of Groton. They're not helping to push projects for developers. That's not the focus here. You're working for taxpayers, you're working for residents. We're not here working to hand out money to developers that want a quick, easy payoff by obtaining a town property. Let's get realistic here. If you want a fast project, please fast track Kelly's Polson's lights ordinance project.
Thank you.
It's way past due. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I have no one else on my list. If there's anyone who wishes to speak at this time, you could approach the podium and give your name and address for the record. Manager Burt, is there anyone left online?
There's not.
Okay.
I have a point of information.
What's your point of information?
We're allowed to ask a clarifying question just to clarify our understanding, is that correct?
To the manager, yes.
Okay. I believe back in my notes, I might be wrong, did Councilor McBride send a referral regarding the light ordinance? And it's just still on the list?
I don't believe so.
There's not one?
I think just the noise ordinance.
Correct. Noise, not light, okay.
Thank you.
And then, I think I had another question. No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. So we will close receipt of citizens petitions. Thank you everyone for coming out.
Can we take a 5-minute recess?
We sure can. The council will stand in recess at 7:53.
effort for sealing.
Yeah, we need more of those speed signs, please.
The council's back from recess at 8:12. On to consent calendar. All matters listed under consent calendar on the agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion on these items will take place unless cause is shown prior to the time the council votes on the motion to adopt. I make a motion to approve the special trust fund contributions for March 7th, 2023, and March 14th, 2023 meeting minutes. So moved.
Second?
Moved by, yeah.
There is an error. There's 2 errors on the agenda, the packet.
Okay, so I got a motion by Melendez, second by Jones. Counselor Parker? Okay.
I did talk to Mrs. McCousher, Clerk McCousher, about it, but page 17, which is part of the packet, does not have our voting
Okay.
logged in. And then just a spelling error. Normally I wouldn't say anything, but page 20, if we could just take out the extra K in Parker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor. On to communication and reports. Counselor Kasiri.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I received various emails regarding the opioid settlement money, an invitation to the state of Mystic being held on April 28th, an email from Steve Mansfield regarding the opioid funds, some referrals, many emails regarding the Groton paraprofessionals' pay and testimonies, an issue at Groton Inn and Suites, Groton Brownfield sites, the Property Reuse Committee, Claudchester, Bikeway, proclamation request guidelines, and the oral school property. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Parker.
I received the same communications as stated by Counsel Kasiri. I want to say congratulations to the new exalted ruler at the Elks. I represented the town council at the event. It was very nicely held, nice event. And I attended an event for a friend of mine whose child has leukemia. Well-attended event. I want to give shout outs to all the communities that participated and helped. Groton community, Ledger community, and Norwich community. It takes a village to support each other in our times of needs, and I want to say thank you to all of them.
Thank you. Counselor Franco.
Thank you. I'd like to take this time to announce to the council that I will be making a referral for a basketball court in Paquonic Bridge that was mentioned tonight during citizens' comments. And I will be putting that in writing, and I would hope I can get some support to have a conversation regarding that. And numerous communications and conversations with numerous people within the community. And that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also received the same communications that have been mentioned, and I want to just give a thank you to Jamie Lee, the property manager at the Groton Housing Authority. Had an excellent tour this afternoon of Pequot Village and Grasso Gardens, looking at units, talking about issues. She spent a lot of time with myself and Councilor Jacome, and I just want to give her a thank you and just the fantastic job that we're doing in both of those properties. I think it's great. So just a big thanks.
Thank you. Counselor McBride.
Thank you. I also received numerous emails and various correspondence that the other councilors have already mentioned. Additionally, also received comments from, Town Manager John Burt, as well as some of his staff on the Property Reuse Committee recommendations and some changes or some discussions that we'll be having. Our meeting will be held tomorrow at 4:30 due to the council meeting at 6. Unfortunately, I was not able to provide those comments via the agenda. I didn't have sufficient time to include it, but I will be bringing all of that information to the meeting tomorrow. And the committee will hopefully be discussing that having initial discussions on some of the things we need to do to move forward. Unfortunately, we only have about an hour and 15 minutes, so hopefully the committee will understand and move, and hopefully have another meeting within a week or two, because we do have some pressure to try to finalize that document. The other wanted to point out is that I did move forward and reached out to Councilor Casari and Councilor Franco regarding Rachel Franco's referral for the Paquonic Bridge Fire Department funding and training center that she put forth on February 1st. It took me a while. I didn't get it out until March 16th. They did respond back on their availability and made the recommendation, which makes sense to move forward after the budget process. And I tentatively have a meeting set up with the two of them to initiate discussions on April 25th. So more to follow with that. That date may be subject to change just due to the budget deliberations and the focus on the RFP process, but know that that is going to move forward. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bordelon.
Thank you. I received the same communications as well as many comments regarding the property use committee, many comments regarding the funds for the opioid settlement money being, distributed to multi agencies, lots about the golf course. I just want to thank the town manager and Betsy for getting the proclamations complete. I too am going to be sending a referral, to, now that we have a full-time athletic director, maybe every time a season closes, we have 3 seasons at the high school. They used to have a way where if, folks, advanced at the state level or in the ECCs and, came in the top, whatever we decide, they recognize them. And so maybe once, 3 times a year, once the season ends, we could, do our part in, supporting our community and our youth. And it's great experience for them to be part of local government as well. So I'll be setting that. I hope we get the support from the council. And it would, there might be seasons where there's nothing. But I think it'd be great. I just want to state also that it was really exciting to honor the folks, especially the military coming out. They help out a lot of ways. And Coach Stalker, as I stated, started that program at Fitch. So that was also awesome proclamation, as well as honoring the cheerleading for their. I also want to give a shout out to the wrestler. They call him Nas up at Fitch. He didn't do so well, I guess, in the ECC in the States, but in New England, he came in first. So he kind of peaked at the end. So I think he's worth recognizing as well. And that would close out the, to my understanding, and I'll find out further from the athletic director, the winter sports. So I'll be sending that proclamation forward for that gentleman. And I also did have some communication with the town manager, Burke, regarding information I originally had sent about a referral with Ledgely Health District. And he did send some information stating that it might be helpful to add stuff in there about blight. I'm not sure if I'm going to add it in that way, but that is still coming. Town Manager Burke, I will be sending that referral suggestion forward as a way of looking at that New York standard, which if we look at blight, it also includes mice and all that anyway. So I think that's it. I did receive communication about South Road and their concerns on the safety on that. And lastly, there's a nonprofit agency called Knowing Community Support Services, formerly Knowing Baptist Group Homes, who will be having a gala for the Roaring 20s as the theme. It's going to be down at the Branford House at Yukon Avery Point on May 9th. It is up on my website. It is a nonprofit agency, and they're looking for people to come, have a good time, and donate to a good cause. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Westervelt.
Thank you. I, as well, also received a lot of different communications, many emails and phone calls about the Property Reuse Committee and how important it is, the task that we're doing there, as well as the Claude Chester, the athletic fields, that plan put out last week that was looked at. It was mostly favorable, what I got from that. And the transportation alternative plan grant, people have talked about that, so that's it.
Thank you, Councilor Jacome.
Thank you, Mayor. Similar communications. The struggle with being the last one to speak is all the rest of the councilors talk about the rest of the communications. But I thank the residents for the communication and Jamie from the Groton Housing Authority for giving us a tour today of the facilities. So thank you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to congratulate the Yukon Huskies for another national championship. I was very happy to see that. I'd just like to remind a couple of events that are happening this month. The Recovery Fest is happening on April 28th. That will be at Pequannock Plains Park from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's an event put on by a group from Grasso Tech named Students for Recovery, and it's to raise awareness for the opioid epidemic. And there will be an Earth Day Expo that will be at the library, Groton Public. That will be Saturday, April 22nd from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there will be vendors and, I believe, vegan food and speakers throughout the day. But that's all I have. Clerk of the Representative Town Meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The RTM will be meeting next week. That would be April 12th, and they do have a referral, the opioid funding distribution. And then we'll be putting together budget meetings. We have one scheduled already for April 20th, but you'll be finished with your work by then.
Okay.
On those accounts. And council, I don't have anything for you. Well, not to bore you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Councilor Franco?
To the clerk of the town council, am I in the town council part of it? Or have you done the town council part?
Yeah.
Can you give us a notice if the Pequannock Bridge Revitalization Committee has a meeting? I know they haven't had one in quite some time, but if they do have an upcoming meeting, would you please notify the council?
You definitely would know. They haven't met. I know that there's, we do have an application for a membership, an appointment that's going to go to the appointments committee, but they haven't met, to my knowledge. I know that we do get notice though, and I will make sure you have it.
Yes, thank you. I'd be very interested to have that.
Although I did have a communication from Director of OPDS that he thought that the new regulations for the zoning, covers all of the NRZ, and that may be phased out. I don't know if Mr. Burke can speak to that.
I'm not aware of that.
Well, if they do have a meeting, would you please notify us? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Town Manager?
Good evening. As part of our rolling a note an additional year for the Groton 2020 plan, we had for a note, we only do a one rating agency meeting. We did S&P, and we anticipate our rating staying the same, but there's a bit of prep for that. Just a reminder, tomorrow night at Thrive 55 is the budget presentation. It's at 6 p.m. The school superintendent and myself will each be presenting, and then there'll be public comment. So that's a good time to come out to give any input prior to the budget meetings. And then we go right into the next night having, I think it's the Board of Ed budget. All the regular budget meetings after tomorrow night will be in this room, just so everyone knows. We have one Thursday and then one Saturday in this room. The ARPA coordinator, the American Rescue Plan Act coordinator, is working with those different agencies that have been awarded funding. We have to have an agreement in place with each and every one. It's a bit of a process, so they're working on that. We're going to be having a meeting, planning staff are going to be meeting with the city and their economic development and planning people to talk about maybe a joint project they're using community infrastructure fund grant to apply for. So we'll see where that goes, but trying to work together in the city. Let's see, planning staff is also working with the Navy on a potential grant for funding to do a mobility hub across the street from the Navy base. The Navy reached out to us, so we're seeing where that leads. Public Works awarded the contract for asbestos abatement at the golf course clubhouse. And then the Nautilus dock, the main dock, finally came in. It's at the contractor's yard, but they're still waiting on the gangway, like the gangplank gangway. That should be in, they hope, soon. They're hoping for a completion date of May 31st, but you know, I wouldn't 100% count on it, but we'll see. They're hopeful. And then on the Mystic Chamber is going to be holding a State of Mystic presentation April 28th. I believe it's at 8 a.m. It'll be myself, Daniel Cheeseborough, and I believe Keith Hedrick's also speaking there as part of that. And that's what I have.
Counselor Kasiri?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Burr, are you aware of anyone, elected official, town staff, or even a private citizen, for that matter, advocating for Rustler to rebid on the Mystic Education Center?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
And I would be very opposed, just for the record.
Understood. And we're not even actively taking bids for proposal right now?
Well, it's the state, first of all, but no, and I wouldn't even be inclined to want to participate in any process in the future.
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that. Mr. Burr, I just also wanted to clarify that Steve Mansfield from Ledge Light Health District indicated he did not want the funds for GASP, and he supported Community Speaks Out receiving the opioid funds, correct?
That's what his email said.
Great, thank you.
Which was forwarded to the council.
Right, thank you. And also to clarify, we have only awarded the opioid funds from last year, this year, and next year to Community Speaks Out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Counselor Franco?
Town manager, as I've heard tonight, I just want to clarify, are we in any type of litigation with Rustler or God Space?
No.
Do you have any kind of information on a fencing project in Quantic Bridge, in front of Quantic Bridge?
Not beyond what was said previously, no.
But
Nothing that.
is there a project?
No.
And it was mentioned tonight that we should, or it was mentioned at the last meeting actually too, that we should reach out to the reuse committee by email and sending all of our information that we want in that committee. Is that really something we should be doing as a quorum of a council, sending emails on town business?
It's something I'd want to talk to Tom Hennick. I've got a message into him. I think maybe I could be a repository and pass comments on, but I'd like to check on that before.
All right, because I personally would rather do work in public than via email, and so, well, thank you for that information.
Oh, and if I could add one more thing, what Councilor Bordelon mentioned, what that was referring to is the town's rental code ordinance rather than Ledge Light, because a lot of the things are structurally, their mold is created by structural issues, and planning staff had approached me that they have some interest in beefing up the ordinance as well as the blight ordinance, which are two separate ordinances.
Thank you. Counselor Bordelon?
I don't understand what you're talking about.
Councilor Bordelon, remember the original referral about Ledge Light doing more mold standards, higher mold standards? Our planning department through our rental code ordinance can do other mold standards if the council so wishes. So that's what she was referring to. And we'd like to beef up the blight ordinance some more too.
Thank you. Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. Could you speak a little bit more to the hub they're talking about for the Navy out front?
It'd be I haven't been in other than the initial talk on it, but like a bus stop, that type of thing. Getting some land across the street, and there's a couple of different funding paths apparently for that.
Where that old Foscone Cleaners is that the property they're thinking of using, and who owns that now?
I'd rather not get into property ownership and what properties at this point till they're ready to approach the owners.
I guess I'll ask it more clearly. Do we own that property across the street?
No, I don't believe so.
Because I remember it used to be the Foscone Cleaners.
I think we might have some land further behind that, but I can't say
Okay.
for sure. I feel like I've heard that, but can't say for sure.
Okay, all right.
No.
And then, my other thing is, I think that's my only question. That's my only question.
Thank you. Okay, on to committee reports. I believe all of our committees are no meeting, no report. Yes, okay. On to new business, transportation alternative plan grant.
I can read it, Mr. Mayor, if you want.
Sure, thank you.
I will make a motion to adopt a resolution to accept the Transportation Alternative Plan grant funding and appropriate the required match from the Capital Improvement Program fund balance. Whereas the town applied for and received a Transportation Alternative Plan grant in the amount of $936,000 to design and construct a bikeway from Depot Road to Thomas Road along Route 1 and South Road. And whereas the project projected total project cost is $1,170,000, and whereas the grant requires a 20% match from the grant recipient, now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council authorizes the Town Manager, John Burt, to accept the Transportation Alternative Plan grant funding, appropriate the required match of $234,000 from the Capital Improvement Program fund balance, and refer to the RTM. I so move.
Second, Jones?
Moved by Kasiri, seconded by Jones. Counsel Bordelon?
Yes. I did state at the last meeting that one of the things I'm really passionate about is just addressing the concerns of the folks that had raised concerns under prior meetings. So I guess my question to the town manager, did you guys have any outreach or posts or any formal discussion with those folks?
Well, we did lots of outreach, but I'll actually bring up Mark Berry's here as well as the VHB, the consultant on this. They can answer any technical questions.
Yeah, because at the last meeting, you guys said, yeah, we'll make an effort.
We put it in the paper, we put it on Facebook, we put it on the website. We tried to get it out there and sent letters to some of the people that were going to be most affected.
And was there a chance for any dialogue with those folks?
Mark, do you want to come up? I wouldn't have been the contact person for it.
Good evening, Mark Berry, Director of Parks and Recreation. To my right is Chris Stalker, who is from VHB. VHB was the consultants that came up with the original proposal and design, conceptual design for the bike path. Council Bordelon, to answer your question, yes, there was an article in the paper. We posted it on Facebook. I think we sent out a bulk email to our 14,000 email addresses, letting people know that they had an opportunity to comment on this grant. We also did reach out to the residents that live on South Road from the railroad tracks out to the airport. The last time I was in front of the council, I did misspeak by accident. The question was asked if there was any widening of the road, and there is one section where conceptually we could look at widening the road. I missed that when I read through it, and so I just wanted to make that clear to the council that, and I had notified Town Manager Burt that I had misspoken on that, and that's why we followed up with letters to all of those residents, just so that they are aware that the conceptual design did look at widening that road in that one section.
Okay, thank you. Could you just state what section and what road?
Yes, at South Road, and it's from the Amtrak bridge out to the beginning of the airport road.
Thank you for
I think it was identified as Section 7.
Section 7.
Yes.
Thank you for your efforts, after speaking at the last meeting, to follow back up with the residents. And I know that you said there'll be some outreach afterwards with folks. One of the things I just hope for in the future, yes, it was great that went out, but after speaking with some of the residents who spoke here tonight and some of the emails and phone calls I had, they were looking for a dialogue where they could have a little kind of Q&A, question and answer session, not just a podium that they're speaking to the council. That didn't kind of fulfill necessarily the need. It was a chance to speak, but there was no response that they was be able to be given. So in future, if we could just try to be a little bit more proactive on the front end and allow, just to really allow those people to have the chance to address their concerns and have a dialogue where they can get a response in real time. That's what folks want to hear. And I know, as it was stated, that the conceptual plans will come later and things can be tweaked then and people can come out. So that would be great. And I hope that that's very forthcoming and a lot of output and outreach is about that. I think the community at large who live on these roads are the best navigators of those roads, and it's really important because they bring a different tapestry of experience that may help us that we never even thought of. One of the suggestions that was brought up, or that I was speaking with somebody coming out of that industrial where the trucks come out, you can go right to the airport or go left. you could put a light there temporarily that would make a stop about 10 feet out so that until that truck clears, nobody could go under that bridge because it is unsafe. So maybe this is something we, as a community, could reach out to the state and advocate for some improvements and some help down here. Even if we weren't going to do a bike path, it's unsafe. So maybe there's a way that we can seek some funding and help for that to make sure that those trucks can get out safely and everybody else can get by safely. If you don't know the area in that road, you would not know that a truck is going to be coming out once you hit that bridge. And we might want some signage there stating, watch out for heavy industrial trucks that can come out, the way that the layout of that land is there. So maybe there's some extra work. I know I did speak to the gentleman to the left here at the break, and he stated that there was going to be some possibly work at the state on the bridge. So my question would be, my last question is, would the work that we're going to do to the bike path be before or after the state's plan with that?
Not quite sure what the state schedule is with the bridge.
Yeah.
Typically, it's going to take, if they were to replace the bridge, it's going to be years down the road. So the bike path would definitely become before the bridge.
Right. So my last thing would be that maybe we should have a little bit of an outreach and let the state know what our plan is, and maybe what we do now should be kind of possibly in step with the vision of what they're going to do, so that we don't have to cut twice.
So not only did I didn't help with the study, but I'm familiar with it.
Yeah.
I also am here as DOT's representative. We administer the Transportation Alternatives Program for them. So I'll be intimately involved with this project from beginning to end. So, as we're moving through the project, we'll be coordinating with DOT on whatever work needs to be done with the bridge, as well as Amtrak, obviously.
Perfect. Thank you for that, and I look forward to hearing some more communications and some efforts to make that road more safe as a whole, and maybe we should reach out to the state. And John, is there any way we can reach out now and ask for some more safety signs down there?
Well, I'd like to have some actual recommendations, and then we go through, they'll submit a request to the traffic authority, which is me and the police chief, and then we would submit it.
Right, even if the bike path wasn't going there, there should be some safety plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Franco?
Thank you. So at our last meeting regarding this, I said I wanted to hear what people had to say as well, and I've heard a lot of support for this. I heard some concerns as well, and from me personally, the biggest concern that I have is about safety. And so in my perspective, this is a lot of money to be, of taxpayer town money, but I want to know, will people be safe? Will we do this, and will people be able to bike down there, and will they be safe? That's my biggest concern. So what you've stated was this was a conceptual plan that was presented to us. So this is not in stone exactly the way it is. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, these are conceptual plans, much like the plans we looked at Colchester. So
Okay.
the next step with this grant money will be drilling into the details.
All right, and who will be the expert to make sure that people on bikes would be safe with the design?
Well, all the recommendations that were proposed are to improve the safety on that road.
Right, but I'm asking, is there an expert that knows, like what they were saying about the big trucks, industrial trucks, and the big mirrors that come out, and then there's bikers and the width of the lane and things of that nature? I mean, is there experts on this that are going to be involved with
Yes,
the biking?
VHB and whatever consultant that we hire.
We would act as one of the reviewers of the project, as the overseer on DOT's behalf, but also whatever engineering firm you hire to do that work, we'll have experts on board as well.
So the engineers should be experts in this field. Is that what you're trying to say to me, in essence?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're going to be told there's industrial, commercial grade use of this road, and it's very narrow, and everything that goes involved in this, correct, when they plan
Part of
this?
the whole development of the plans will be an on-site assessment. I mean, they're not going to sit in their office and say, oh, let's put a line here and a line here. I mean, they're going to be out surveying that road. I'm sorry. They're going to be out surveying that road and, boots on the ground, research before they've put their plan together.
Okay, and if just by any chance they come back and say, you know what, it's really not as safe as we thought, like if this is only the space you have, and maybe it shouldn't be a bike lane, but it should be like just a, what is it called, the edge there, not quite such a bike lane, but
A shoulder.
Shoulder, I'm sorry, thank you. What if they come back with that? How would that affect this grant?
I don't know that we've run into that situation, but I can't imagine.
It wouldn't affect the grant at all. I mean, DOT is going to want something, obviously, that's got safety in mind. So, I mean, if that's the conclusion of the designer, that, you know, this is the way they should go, then, you know, obviously DOT would accept that.
Okay, and when it does come to the engineering part of it, will you be talking to people again when it comes to that, when you come up with more plans beyond the conceptual?
Yeah, as part of the design process, the town will be required to hold at least one public meeting. I mean, they can hold multiple public meetings, but they'll be required to have at least one once the design is sort of fleshed out a little bit, and, you know, we can see what the impacts of the project are.
All right, so people that may be impacted on those roads will be able to come out and actually
Absolutely.
have conversations and have back and forth with you.
Part of the
is that
requirement of
correct?
the public information meeting is that all the abutters have to be notified.
Okay. All right, so I'm very much in favor of bike paths in our community, and I will support this with the answers that you've given me. And I just would think safety is the number one priority that I think, especially with this type of road. Thank you very much.
Just quickly, can I ask a question? Just correct me if I'm wrong. I guess the idea is that having the bike path there will always make it safer for bikers, just because the bike path is like delineated and drivers will be looking for bikers. I guess I think the concern is coming from having the bike path would encourage more bikers, because anyone can ride a bike down that road now. So if you had the same amount of bikers as ride now with the bike lanes rather than without, they'd be safer. I think the concern is that because there is a bike lane there, it will encourage more bikers to go down there and sort of that increase the danger that way. Is that sort of the idea?
I don't think so. I think what you're going to find is that when you have more bikers out there, the vehicles are going to hopefully be more aware that there's more bikers out there. And, you know, one of the parts of the project is narrowing the travel lanes down. So people will tend to see narrow travel lanes, oh geez, I have to slow down. It's just a natural instinct. You know, so hopefully they'll be not speeding as much. And, you know, so that's been at least our experience in doing all this type of work, is that, you know, with more bikers out there, the cars will tend to slow down.
Okay. All right, thank you. Councilor Bordelon?
I just, one question for the town manager. A couple constituents had stated that there used to be speed limit signs by that bridge that went down to like 15 at one point, and now they're no longer there. Even outside of this whole bike lane path thing, is there any way that we can just check on that as a safety concern in general?
Yeah, I'll check through Greg Hanover.
Okay, because I think that could help, you know, just, and even if it's the, you know, just because of this, you know, it could be, you know, I've seen, you know, like in Vermont, they have the trees that they take down, the big lumber trees. They have the flashing lights saying, you know, this is a hazard zone, slow it down because the flashing lights, you could have them mounted 15 miles an hour with the flashing on it and the reason that that's there. So that could be very helpful, no matter what goes there. Bike lane, walking, the hazardous truck, so, and maybe the
I'll check on it.
And then the other last thing is, you know, obviously I'm supporting this, and I think it's really important that we pass a resolution, you know, trying to be more environmentally friendly, and this is a step forward with that, with the connectability of the different trails and the, you know, walkable neighborhoods, and all of this kind of ties into everything as a whole. So, and definitely decreasing our carbon footprint. So it's definitely, you know, an encouragement, and I think it's a great effort. I'm just hoping we can work out the fine details. So very important. Thank you for your efforts.
Councilor Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So my question is, Mayor Melendez touched on it, more bikers on the road, but on the same token, we have to make sure that both cars can go past. Someone just stated tonight that there's not enough room sometimes if the people are coming down the hill on South Road. You have the trucks coming out, there's visibility issues. You can't narrow that road anymore. Those trucks are very wide. It's bad enough you almost have to move over under the bridge to let the truck go by. So if we're going to look at everything, we've got to make sure that there's enough space, because you can't widen the bridge So where is that going to come in? So if they can look at every little detail about this, and 2 or 3 bikers going down one lane is going to be a problem, because they do ride that way. And they've done it in the city all the time. So they're take up half the road, and we yield to them, but they're forgetting there's buses, there's big trucks coming through, and that's almost an accident waiting to happen. I'm all for people riding their bikes and stuff, but there's still vehicles. There's people who still have the option of driving their vehicles, and there's some who will ride the bus. So we have to make everyone safe. So that's my biggest concern, is safety. So if we can look at that before we start shrinking roads down across the way, make sure that we got the widths of the trucks too, and the buses. Thank you.
Thank you. So then I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to approval of 2023 golf course rates.
Would you like me to read it?
Sure, thank you.
Resolution setting 2023 rates for the Shinnecock Golf Course, whereas the Golf Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation Commission have endorsed changes for the fees and membership rates and rules and regulations for the Shinnecock Golf Course for 2023, and whereas recommendations include an increase in green fees, reducing the variety of rate categories, altering some of the limited play categories, and adding active and retired military rates, and whereas the council approved the 9-hole resident rate remained at $22 and the senior cart rate Monday through Friday before 9 a.m. remained at $15, and recommended developing a program to increase the diversity of players by reducing barriers to participation through scholarships or some other instrument. Now therefore be it resolved that the municipal golf course rates for 2023 shall be the rates as attached to this resolution. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Franco. Counselor Bordelon?
Thank you. I think it's great that folks came out and spoke on behalf of this, and it's important to, honor the wishes, and I definitely think that the rate should always be lower for residents than non-residents. As I spoke before, and we got the military rate on there. I hope that, this is a town facility, and we should be open up equal access as a Groton Parks and Rec Committee. We're trying to broaden our experience and exposure for all social classes, men, women, children, and low income to moderate income. And the affordability is a thing, and that might be a barrier in which folks do not participate in golf. And it might not be something we can do this year, and I want to thank the folks who did add the military rate as a recommendation last time. But I hope, as I move this forward tonight, that we do consider looking at a rate that's equal to seniors and military for low income, that, and whatever the income guidelines are, that, I guess I want to ask Mark Berry if he has a minute.
Just while it's coming up, one thing I had mentioned to Mark Berry, if you remember, for recreational programs, the town had paid basically for a certain number of scholarships. I think that could possibly be something of interest with the golf course.
Thank you, Town Manager. So I was just wondering what the income requirements are to qualify for like a subsidy or discount on other municipal park and recreational activities.
So we have a couple of different plans. We do require that people bring in their tax forms, and depending on where they are, they either get a 20, 40, or a 65% discount. And that's for all recreation programs, which would include golf lessons. That does not apply currently to memberships, but it does apply to lessons, and we do offer youth lessons during the course of the summer.
Is there any barriers in which you could not, possibly look at discounting that rate for membership for folks who fall in the low income?
No, I don't think there are any barriers. Okay. The Golf Advisory Board met last night, and we did talk about, the direction that the council would like us to move in. And the PGA has a first tee program, and we are looking at that. And we're also going to reach out to the Connecticut PGA to talk to them about potential scholarships. You know, there's just lowering the cost of a membership doesn't solve the problem. There's actually three kind of components to this. One, you need equipment, and two, you need to know how to play. Just because you have a membership doesn't mean you can play golf. I suppose you could go out and try, and a lot of people do, but you know, there's kind of three components to it. And so it's not it's a three-prong approach that we're trying to deal with, and not something that, you know, I wouldn't expect that we'll have something in place by this June. I think it's going to take a little while.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, and I think it's a great process, and I appreciate you looking at that and looking at that three-prong approach of trying to, you know, make it more accessible to folks that might have a barrier. Some other towns have rental gear for their, even like you go to, you know, you go bowling, you get rental shoes. We don't bring bowling shoes, so we can open up this and make it accessible in a way where they can get the lessons, maybe a scholarship or a program. So those are things I'd love to see that opened up to folks that, you know, maybe never even thought of trying. So thank you for that.
Councilor Jacome?
I just want to make a quick note, thank you, Director Barry, that while I think we should make it accessible, we also have to remember that the golf course is something that we're trying to make self-sufficient, so that there are going to be increases needed. So I think something to consider for the council as well, that while it needs to be open, I think, and affordable, that we're also can never always keep prices down. So
Right,
that's what
it is, the golf course is a special revenue fund, and we do pay for all of the operating expenses. So, yes, there is a balance. You know, and we have to be careful with our pricing, so that, because each year we deal with increases in costs associated with the golf course, personnel, materials and supplies, all of those kinds of things. So it is a balancing act.
And do you also intend on doing similar increases, you know, like yearly? Do you intend to go up 2-3% instead of just 5%, or is that something the committee discusses?
Yes, so the committee discusses the proposed rates based on a number of different factors. One, what other courses are charging, you know, because we're not operating in a vacuum. We are competing against other courses because they have choices. You know, that's one factor. We also look at what we anticipate our budget to be. Sometimes it's a little tricky because some of the information comes in kind of after the golf course has set their rates, but we kind of know we know a majority of the fees, but not all of them. So, you know, those are and then we also consider just, you know, what's going on around us. You know, interest rates and whatever the cost of living is increasing. You know, all of those things we try to balance when we're making that decision.
No, I agree. We should definitely stay affordable, but we still have to maintain, stay competitive for sure. So,
yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Bordelon?
Is there any effort to, you know, I know we're celebrating the 150 years coming up, is that correct? In
Yes,
June or
that is
July?
correct.
What month is that?
Well, we haven't been able to determine exactly,
Okay.
but it's this year.
Okay.
And we're actually putting together a display that's going to go up in the library for the month, at least the month of May.
All right. Is there any effort to make that a historic, because it is a historic building? Has it been recognized as a historic building yet? And there might be some monies from the state by making it historic, which could help offset cost, because at 150 years old, and it's a sought-after course, as the membership fees do go up, it would be great to have that on the historic commission and recognized by our state. That can bring in money. Has that been looked at?
We did look at that, and it's actually an expense. There is money in the state, but generally the process requires hiring a consultant because it's very labor intensive to go through the process. And quite frankly, we survey folks, and the fact that it's a Donald Ross course, they don't really care. And recognizing the building as historic, they don't really, I don't think that brings necessarily any extra value, and it's not going to open up doors, and we're going to be available, money's going to be available through more grants because we have this historic building. We have looked at this.
It does help for the repairs of the building is what I'm worried about, I was thinking, or suggestion, by having it marked as a historic building. It also should be marked because there are certain things in it that should be renovated in a certain way that conforms with the historic society's guidelines, because it is, it's not just the course, it's the building. The building is historic.
Right.
And that is a big driver, so it's unfortunate that it's a fee. I'll look more into that, and I'll ask offline, but it would be neat to see if we could maybe, compete for, historic grant money for preservation of the building. Not the course, but can we identify, so is there a way to identify the building without identifying the course, is what I'm trying to say?
I'm not sure.
So that's, yeah, so if we could look in, John, is there a way, if you could put that as a note, could you report back if there's a way we can look into the building as being historic versus the course?
There were renovations when there was the land swap, so I don't know if the course still qualifies as historic, because there's a portion of it that's, I don't know when the land swap was, but.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Right, but the building could be maybe identified as the historic part.
Right.
Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor. Thank you. On to athletic field plans, Claude-Chester, Sutton Park, and Fitch High School. Council Franco.
Thank you. Make a resolution authorizing town staff and Athletic Fields Task Force, AFTF, to initiate the hiring process for a firm to develop detailed athletic field plans. Whereas the AFTF conducted a comprehensive study for youth, high school, and adult athletic field use needs, and whereas the town conducted various public engagement initiatives to collect further input, and whereas $200,000 was appropriated in the FYE 22 budget for a study to develop detailed athletic field plans, now therefore be resolved that the town council authorize town staff and Athletic Fields Task Force to initiate the hiring process for a firm to develop detailed athletic field plans at Claude-Chester, Sutton Park, and Fitch High School to meet the identified needs through the data collected through public engagement in the Athletic Fields Task Force, and with great joy, I so move.
Second, Bordelon.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Bordelon. Council Parker?
Just a quick question. When you say town staff, what town staff? Who's spearheading this with the task force?
Mr. Barry's.
Yeah, Mr. Merritt.
All right, I was just wondering, my thing is, if we were gonna say town staff, it would be very clear, because it could be anybody in what department, and people may want to reach out and make suggestions. I just think we should announce that it's Mr. Barry, staff, he and his staff are doing this, and not just town staff. Just my thought, 2 cents. Thank you.
I think it's also left a little more vague just because I have to assign a staff ultimately, though, whereas the council doesn't assign a particular person. But-
Council Bordelon?
No, thank you. I think this is important to have this.
No, done?
No,
Okay.
because I was gonna say something else. So if that's the case, we could just said, have the town manager appoint the town's personnel.
Yeah.
I would feel better that way, because we're not, just to change the verbiage, the town, authorize the town manager to assign the town staff to the, because we're not assigning the town staff, it goes through the manager.
Yeah, I do understand, yeah.
You see what I mean?
I mean, we don't have the ability to authorize town staff.
Correct.
Well,
No, we do not. It's in the charter, so I feel more comfortable if we say authorize the town manager.
I mean, it is implied that way. I mean,
It implies that
it's-
we're
right,
doing it.
it's in- Yeah, I don't,
It implies that we're doing it, so I'd rather, can we,
I mean, I guess this is saying we're authorizing the resolution. I think that's what this
we're
is saying.
authorizing the town staff and the athletics task force to initiate the hiring process. We should not say that. We have no authority over the town staff.
Though I am town staff though, so I think it's basically just directing me and then I direct whoever's needed, yeah.
No.
But I'd be fine if it said town manager than
Well,
staff.
we've done that with everything else. We say town manager, and then you.
I wouldn't
assign.
mind changing the resolution and correcting staff to manager. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I have an amendment by Counselor Franco to change the word staff to manager.
I second that.
Okay. Moved by Franco, seconded by Parker. All right, so on the amendment, you want to speak on the amendment or on the main motion?
Amendment first?
I'm sorry?
You vote on the amendment first?
Yeah. I'm asking Council Bordelon if she wants to speak on the amendment or the main motion.
No, I won't speak on that.
Okay, so to vote on the amendment, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, carries 8 in favor, 1 opposed, Bordelon, 0 abstaining. Okay. Speaking on the main motion as amended, Council Bordelon?
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's long overdue to do work up at the high school, so I'm hoping that this study is going to move things along. I know there'll be more talk about this to be done in a more environmentally friendly way, as far as like, should we go turf, non-turf, but I hope that's included in the study. Is that correct, Town Manager Burke? Or should I ask the rec department? Because if we're going to study it, we need to study it now. And I think that the proposal of this study should be looking at all, surfaces and from an environmental. I know Groton Conservation and several others, and we as a council agreed to work in a more environmentally friendly way. We are a coastal community with sea rise, and runoff is a concern. There are different types of field that are more environmentally friendly. So my question is, I don't want to wait to study it again later and delay anything. I want this to be part of the study up front.
And it will be. That will be one of the tasks assigned in the RFQ.
Perfect. And then my next question is, folks are speaking about the pool. What is the I know it's not in this, but it is on our CIP.
Yes, it's on the CIP. It's not funded, but it's included you can fund it. It's in the list.
Okay.
Whereas if I don't include it, then it can't be discussed.
Okay.
So,
All right. And yeah, I just really think that, based on this study, we need to work towards being more competitive, not just academically, but athletically. And our fields up at the high school are way behind the curve, and nothing has been done for many years. Especially making sure when we look at this study that we're making sure that female athletes have equal access, and the rights of proper restrooms and locker rooms should also be part of that study. Is that going to be on there as well?
Yes, it is not just a study of the fields, but it includes the, if you will, the recreational amenities, which, would really.
Right. I'm more focused with, the gender equality factor. It's really that important that women are underserved for softball fields, field hockey fields, and many other things that are predominantly women. So I just want to make sure, and again, I'll speak again, saying from the conservation side, making sure that we're looking at ways to, what we're going to be planting, what we're going to be taking down when doing this, and how we're going to move forward. I'm hoping that's all part of this study. Thank you.
Council Franco?
Just very quickly on athletic fields, speaking of such, I know this is maybe a little off topic, just give me a little space there. I want to thank you for the field behind the community center and how quickly it went up. So thank you very much. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, well, thank you, but it was not just Parks and Recreation. A lot of the work was done with Public Works, and it was a collaborative project.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And the speed, and it's beautiful. Thank you. Council can be proud, I think, so, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor. Thank you again.
To read the next one, Mayor. if you want.
Sure.
Job descriptions, right?
Yes.
All right, resolution updating the planning technician and the assistant to the town manager job descriptions and adding an additional part-time administrative secretary position. Whereas various town of Groton descriptions were reviewed, and whereas in order to align said descriptions with existing and proposed duties, there was a need to update the existing job descriptions. And whereas during the review of the overall structure of the town manager's department, it was determined that there was a need for an additional part-time administrative secretary position to assist with departmental duties. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town council hereby approves the revised planning technician and assistant to the town manager job descriptions and the addition of part-time up to 19 hours per week administrative secretary position in the town manager's department as presented. So moved.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Jacome, seconded by Franco. Council Bordelon?
Some just comments I had received after the last meeting were just asking what the cost increase would be.
That actually has to be negotiated once it's approved with the union, though it's just a change in, I think I said mine was max in the 30,000 range, if I remember correctly. It was, could have been 35, but I thought it was 30. But you're only switching a level or so on the planning, so I wouldn't anticipate a lot of, but you actually have to negotiate it with the union.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
Do you need all his attorneys' names?
I think so. Does he need to read all the
All the
attorney names
attorneys' names at the
specifically?
bottom? Or they need to be read?
I would read the resolved. Yeah, I would read it all.
Read them all.
For the
Okay.
resolved.
Just
Yeah.
start from here.
Okay.
Unless the clerk thinks otherwise.
Yeah, it's important to have
Just
the quality of his name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
My apologies if I mispronounce these people's names. Resolve the pursuant of Town Charter, Section 8.2.1, Christy Kelly of the firm of Sushman, Shapiro, Wool, Brennan, Gray, and Greenberg, P.C., is hereby appointed town attorney to exercise all powers and duties of that office until her successor shall be appointed and qualified, that the following attorneys from Sushman, Shapiro may assist Attorney Kelly in carrying out her duties: Robert Avina, Raymond Barabot, James Berryman, Michael Blanchard, Eric Callahan, Michael Carey, Richard Cody, Jack Collins, Jeanette Dostey, Rochelle Doyen, Brian Fingo, Theodore Heiser, Jeffrey Hill, Caroline Kennedy, Nicholas Keppel, Robert Kevel, Jay Levin, Jillian Miller, Samuel Nacetta, Laura Raymond, Isabel Del Vecchio, and Kyle Zenda. So moved.
Second, Bordelon.
Okay, so I've got a motion by Jones, a second by Bordelon. Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
I can read the next one.
Okay,
I will make a motion to adopt a resolution approving the tentative agreement reached between the town and Groton Telecommunicators Local 5378 IAFF for the term July 1st, 2022, June 30th, 2025. Whereas the town of Groton and Local 5378 IAFF reached a tentative agreement on a successor collective bargaining agreement for the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. And whereas the bargaining unit membership voted to approve the agreement, and whereas approval is recommended by the town's negotiators, now therefore be it resolved, the Groton Town Council hereby approves the agreement and the expenditure of funds necessary to implement the agreement, inclusive an agreement providing for pension for members of Groton Telecommunicators Association, United Electrical Local 222, Connecticut Independent Labor Union Local 86 Incorporated, affiliated with United Electrical, Radio, and Machine Workers of America, and inclusive of Exhibit A, Alpha, Town of Groton, proposed cash balance plan for telecommunicators summary of plan provisions between the town and Local 5378 IAFF on a successor collective bargaining agreement for the period July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2025. I so move.
Second, Franco.
Moved by Kasiri, seconded by Franco. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
I can read that
Sure.
last one. Resolution approving easements for traffic safety equipment along US Route 1 at intersections of Central Avenue with Paquonic Plains Park entrance and Ring Drive with L.T. Grosso Technical School. Whereas the Connecticut Department of Transportation, DOT, has requested 2 easements for the installation of traffic safety equipment, including the installation of new traffic signals and pedestrian crossway equipment. And whereas the 2 easements are located along US Route 1 at the intersection of Central Avenue with the Paquonic Plains Park entrance and at the intersection of Ring Drive with the L.T. Grosso Technical School entrance. And whereas the DOT has offered the town $500 in exchange for the Ring Drive intersection and $690 for the intersection at Central Avenue. And whereas DOT has indicated the new pedestrian facilities will include accessible pedestrian signals, APS, and whereas town staff have recommended that the town council grant the easement, now therefore be it resolved that the town council authorizes town manager John Burke to sign and process paperwork necessary to grant easements along US Route 1 at the intersections of Central Avenue with Paquonic Plains Park entrance and Ring Drive with the entrance of the L.T. Grosso Technical School to the Connecticut Department of Transportation, DOT, as depicted on maps previously provided by the DOT in the 2 offer letters dated March 3rd, 2023. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Franco, seconded by Bordelon.
Parker.
Moved by Parker, seconded by Bordelon. Any discussion? Counselor Kasiri?
Thank you. Mr. Burt, I just wanted to clarify for the record that the gentleman that spoke to us on this matter, he emailed us basically within a couple of days and
Got right back.
and got right back
With the right equipment. yes.
with most of the concerns that we brought up, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Carries unanimously, 9 in favor. Counselor Franco?
Thank you. Resolution accepting the FYE 2022 audit report. Whereas the town council has considered the annual audit of the town of Groton's finances covering the fiscal year of July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. And whereas the council has discussed the audit findings with the principal of the audit team from the firm Clifton Larson Allen LLP, now therefore be resolved that the town of Groton accepts and files the FYE 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, ACFR, the auditor's reports, and the management letter.
So move. Second.
Okay. Moved by Franco, seconded by Bordelon. Okay.
Race to the end.
Any discussion? Counselor Bordelon?
I just want to ask the town manager, the finding where we were a little weak on that one area on, and the other thing with the software that was being required, or the way of, has any been into any of that? And I know that you were also asked the auditor if the Board of Ed was moving towards that direction on all these things as well. So I just wanted to close that conversation.
Yeah, I touched base a couple days later with Dee Morrison, the director, and she had touched base and discussed with the auditor after the presentation. She watched the presentation. Of course, she was not here that night, and then talked it through with the auditor. And the auditor is also, they're scheduling something to go over the GASBs, et cetera, later. And the auditor said she would specifically reach out to it's actually good that you brought that up. I think the auditor didn't realize that we didn't have like the same IT department,
Right.
and so she's reaching out independently, so.
Only in the town of Groton, that's all
Yeah.
separate. Doesn't make sense.
We tried before.
Yeah, we tried. Maybe we should bring that, maybe that's a good referral. Okay, so that's great, so we're moving on that, and the cost for these programs, we have to have them, we have to be up to date. Is that gonna be in this budget, or do you think over the next budget, or what are you projecting on
If
that?
they need anything, I don't think it's in this one.
Okay. Do you have an idea of ballpark of what we're looking
I'm
at?
sorry, I don't.
Okay, when you have that, can you just send it
Sure.
on? It's a good way to kind of keep track
Yeah.
of. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, carries unanimously, 9 in favor.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn by Counselor Bordelon,
Second.
seconded by Counselor Jones. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, we are adjourned unanimously at 9:17.